I was alone, on the run from a bad breakup, trying to outrun the holidays. I drove over 18,000 miles for a new start, but that new start collapsed at Christmas. And on the drive back home, completely isolated in the Sierra Nevadas, that's when I realized I was definitely not alone on those roads. This is the scariest story of my life. Hey, it's Maley, your favorite mixed media neo-expressionist. Folk artists, welcome to my channel. Hey y'all, welcome back. I know a lot of you deal with the holiday blues. In 2001, after 9/11, I decided to skip them altogether. I had broken up with my ex. It was devastating. After marriage, separation, divorce, and then another relationship that was shot to hell, the pattern remained. Failure in love. I was devastated, and the whole of my hometown community suddenly felt alien. I hid out like an outdoor cat with serious injuries hides under the house, just far enough out of reach that you can see them with a flashlight, but you can't reach them. The Twin Towers in New York City had just come down on 9/11, 2001. I watched that horror with a matching personal grief for the massive losses and obliteration of a giant slice of humanity in minutes and hours. And then, all at once, my life had crashed too. A tower moment, as they say in tarot. Mine was sabotage and a criminal act of war as well, in my opinion. I watched how I felt inside play out on my giant projection TV screen in the sunken living room. Devastation, obliteration, a massive explosion of grief and tragedy. And then it was in November of 2001, and online dating was swinging high. I met someone from a chat room, and on my birthday, disgusted with my surroundings and embarrassed to show my face, and wanting to escape the pain of the emptiness and grief I felt in my environment, and having been born in November. My birthday was always entangled and lost with Thanksgiving and the craziness of the wind up to Christmas, and I just couldn't take another hollow holiday season at home. So I decided to go and visit my online friend in Reno, Nevada, and celebrate somewhere else with some other people. I'd lived in the small college town of Nacogdoches, Texas my whole life. I had traveled before, but never by myself, not across country. I was in my mid-30s and desperate for a better life. I drove my little red Ford Ranger through the desert Southwest, a drive of over 27 hours, 2 days, driving way too far too long during the days and nights for safety. A tumbling tumbleweed crossed the road in front of me in West Texas, and later I wasn't sure if I dreamed it or not. I was sleeping in my truck, living like a homeless person on the road, speeding towards the hope of a new horizon. I had an art gallery in Park City, Utah, home of Sundance Film Festival, and I was selling a painting a month. And I was voted favorite female Texas artist at Creekside Gallery, which I thought was suspiciously specific. They had little cards announcing the favorites of their poll on the walls all over the gallery. So I visited there too while I was in nearby Nevada. I had to fly though. The advice was that it was unwise to try and drive to Park City, Utah from Reno, Nevada in November by a girl raised in deep East Texas. That part was also weird, but I won't get into it. Suffice it to say, the relationship in Reno was no good, In fact, it was scary bad. I stayed long enough to ascertain this and the increasing level of danger. I celebrated Christmas that year with my parents in Park City, but with a heavy heart. When I went back to Reno, I had to leave there to return to Texas in my little red truck. Wanting to avoid the mind-numbing monotony of the Sonoran Desert again, I opted to drive through the Sierra Nevadas. South Lake Tahoe in the snowy mountains is incredibly scenic and beautiful. I was stressing about driving in the snow because the road signs spoke of the necessity of chains and chain jockeys, and I didn't have a clue what any of that was. It was snowy and beautiful, and I pulled into a rest stop to take in the beauty of a deserted public spot. I was still the only one there when I went into the women's restroom before I hit the road again. Nice to have the place to yourself. But very soon, someone followed me in. There was no one out there before. And I watched the feet go into an adjacent stall, the handicap stall, and just stand there, feet towards the toilet. It was then that alarm bells really went off and the adrenaline started pumping. So much for peace and beauty and tranquility. I told myself, don't panic, just finish and get yourself dressed. Do not flush. Fuck washing your hands. Hit the door to the stall, hit the door to the exit, and get to your truck. Now! I busted out of there. There were other people in the parking lot by that time, but nobody but me and this other person could have possibly been in that bathroom. So I booked it so fast in my truck, and then I turned around to see who came out from behind that wall. And it was a man. He was fairly tall, about mid-weight, blonde, white-gray, or a short haircut, and staring at me, giving that evil vibe, looking like, I nearly got you. And I pulled out of there and drove through the day. That night, somewhere around New Mexico, I foolishly stopped at yet another rest stop. This one was overrun with people. There were so many people there, it looked like a party, a hangout. I was too tired to care. I was dressed in my jacket and a cap, and I was rocking Doc Martens at the time. And after the weird experience around Lake Tahoe, I also didn't care in the least if anyone thought I looked like a dude. I had to pee, and I made it for the women's restroom. As soon as I sat my butt down, a Spanish-speaking lady came in and hollered, Senor, this is the ladies' room and no men are allowed in here. And I just sat and peed behind the flimsy stall, peeking out, listening to her and feeling extremely vulnerable. Then I figured she might be talking to me. And I said, are you talking to me? And she said, yes. And I said, I am not a man. And this time I did wash my hands, and I did take my time, with some very nosy senoritas in the toilet scrutinizing me. When I got to the exit, and this was so traumatic, on top of everything else, there were two uniformed officers with guns drawn saying, we have a report of a man in the women's restroom. And I just moved past them and said they were sadly mistaken. And the whole group of people, hundreds of people, just stared at me. I approached a group of Mexican men on my way back to the truck, and I unzipped my jacket and thrust my boobs at them in a move I thought would impress and clarify. And this just brought laughter from the hombres and passed through the immense crowd. And the cops were just standing there, not knowing what the fuck to do. So I left and went home to lick my wounds. So much more for my travels. So much for new horizons. It wasn't until much later that it dawned on me that the two incidents might very well be related. I've looked from time to time for a rapist or killer who traveled that route from Reno down the Sierra Nevadas through Arizona and New Mexico to Texas. And then I saw a YouTube video about Matthew Muller. It's also on Netflix, who operated in that area during that time. I thought enough of it to comment on the video and to tell my experience. My hope is that my bizarre experiences have the dots connected someday. I've gotten a few responses, mostly from people expressing gratitude that nothing happened to me at Lake Tahoe. Some mental midgets got stuck on me not washing my hands. It's terrifying to think that I might have been followed. It makes my blood run ice cold that I might have been targeted online and nearly harmed much worse than I was for overly trusting people who hadn't earned my trust. I had no idea who I went to visit in the first place. I had no idea who they were, who they knew, who knew them, who was who at all. Terrifying. It was terrible to be mistaken for a male perpetrating crimes when you just needed to pee and you went to your corresponding bathroom for your gender. To be drawn down on by men in black suits in 9 ways to hurt me and the public humiliation was horrific. To have escaped a truly nightmarish scenario, but to have possibly tripped right through it, is a priceless, perfect horror story for Halloween. It's maybe your favorite. Thanks for watching, y'all. Be safe out there. Have fun.